Is it too loud? Hush. Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca. If you haven't been here before, welcome. So today's video is going to be some college advice, especially for those of you who are new, freshmen, transfer students, wherever you are coming from in your life. If you are entering college and you have not been there before, this video is for you. So I went on my Instagram and I asked you guys to give me some advice that you would have liked to have when you were a freshman in college, and I got a ton of answers, so thank you so much for participating. If you want to be a part of my videos in the future through Instagram, you can follow my Instagram right here. I will leave the link down below. And yes, definitely go follow me over there. And while you're at it, make sure to subscribe right here if you want to stick around. So I just graduated from college. I finished my graduate degree at Rutgers. I did my undergrad at Rutgers, and I figured since I just spent 5 years of my young life in college and at university, that I might be a good person to give you some advice about it. If you have other tips, tricks, advice, feel free to leave it down below in the comments. I love to see what you guys have to say about this, and I'm sure everyone appreciates the advice. This outfit makes me look very sporty, like, oh, I was in Rutgers athletics. Like, no, my boyfriend bought this for me. It is a Rutgers basketball t-shirt uniform. I'm a big basketball fan, big Rutgers basketball fan. So I decided to sport my Rutgers gear while talking about college because I went to Rutgers. We know this. Anyway, so this advice is obviously going to apply to anyone who is new in college, but also it might be really helpful if you also go to Rutgers. The tips I'm going to give are like pretty general information that should be applicable everywhere, but if you go to Rutgers, I might have some sneaky, specific tips and tricks just for you. So lucky you. Tip number 1, it's okay if it takes you a while to decide your major. So I had a couple people send advice in like this. I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to. You don't need to know your major out of the gate. You don't need to know your major right away. You don't even need to know your major your sophomore year. Like, give yourself time to figure out what you really want to do. I apologize in advance if there's this like buzzing ringing. I am sitting in my sunroom with the windows open because it's so hot and you might be able to hear some bugs. So, you know, we'll deal with it. Here's my advice to you if you are going in and you don't know your major right away. Give yourself a list of things that you are interested in doing. So when I went to Rutgers, I was pretty sure that I wanted to do journalism and have that be my major, but I wasn't positive, so I gave myself a couple of extra options that I was interested in. I was looking at political science, I was interested in the business school, I wasn't exactly sure in those fields what I would want to do, but I had some idea that those things were like sparking interest for me. And it's okay if those things are completely opposite each other. It's okay if you like environmental science and you also like computer programming and you also like art. You know, like, just give yourself somewhere to start and then put yourself in situations where you can experience those things. So I really wanted to do photography. That class was closed when I got to Rutgers. So I found myself in the photography club at Rutgers for a few weeks trying things out. That's totally fine. You are going to be able to find spaces outside of class that also have to do with what you are passionate about. The other thing I will say is if you don't immediately know your major, which is, like I said, 100% fine, start taking the classes that you know that you have to take. Every college has them. Rutgers had them. They're these general elective classes that you are required to take almost no matter what your major is. So I would suggest go for those first. The other thing I would say is that those general elective courses are supposed to be able to help you find your major. So go for the ones that are really interesting to you. It's worth it to wait for the classes that you're interested in instead of wasting your credits on a class that you find boring that you end up not wanting to go to. Then another piece of advice is also to take classes outside of your major. Like I said, general elective classes are a really great opportunity to do this. If you did go in with some semblance of what you want your major to be, but you're not completely sure, definitely go ahead and take those classes that are going to be outside of your major. They might be really interesting to you and you might end up deciding that you want to switch majors. That's definitely okay too if you end up switching your major. Number 2, the best way to make friends. So a lot of people are concerned about how to make friends at college. This is like a huge thing that people are worried about. So here's the first thing that I will suggest. If you want to make friends at college, which obviously all of us do, you need to put yourself out there. you need to go to events. You need to get your butt out of your dorm room and you need to go out and meet new people. That's just how it's going to be. So when I first went to college, I obviously, like, Rutgers is a state school, so I did know a good number of people who were coming from my high school, but I was also really interested in branching out and meeting new people. So I happened to meet my roommate online, and we met one time beforehand, but we didn't really know each other. And before we even got to school, there were like programs where it was like for freshmen and transfer students to let you get to know each other. So I asked her if she wanted to do this program with me, and we did, you know, different service projects and stuff, and we both decided to sign up for this early program. So we moved in early, we met each other early, we both went on this program, we both met people outside of like the two of us, and it was extremely helpful in letting us make friends. So when you are heading to school, search out those programs that are going to let you come early and do interesting stuff, whether it's service. There was like adventure programs where you can go do zip lines and stuff. That's going to be a space where you're going to meet a smaller number of people, and it's going to allow you to connect with others. So my biggest suggestion would be to find spaces that make your university feel smaller. The third piece of advice is pretty much connected to the second piece of advice. It is, don't be afraid to go out and do things on your own. Don't be afraid. Like, go out, do things by yourself, and you'll meet people. It's definitely the best way to, you know, force yourself out of your comfort zone, explore the school that you are now going to, and meet people around campus. So you need to go to things alone. When I joined my sorority, I applied alone, I showed up to events alone, and I was terrified. There was like an info session that you had to go to before being able to like fully apply to join the sorority. And I was so nervous that I almost didn't go to the info session, and then I wouldn't have been eligible to join. And my roommate, as much as she wasn't interested in joining the sorority, she was like, Becca, go to the info session. Like, what could possibly happen? And I was so nervous that I was going to go by myself and that I was going to be embarrassed or that no one was going to talk to me. And it's like, that's literally what the info session is for. They want to talk to you because they want to recruit you into their club or organization or sorority. So go to those meetings. You might meet someone at the info session who ends up being one of your best friends. That happens like pretty often. So go out, talk to people, do things alone. Number 4, we're getting to be a little more in the logistics of college life. Do not buy the textbook before you go to the class. The first class is always going to be going over the syllabus unless you are an upperclassman and you're going to upper level courses. It's literally always going to be going over the syllabus. For one, your professor knows that about a quarter of you are going to drop out or switch classes and go somewhere else. So they are not going to start teaching class until they know that you are solidly in there. But you do not need to buy the textbook probably until a week or two after that class. And during the class where they are discussing the syllabus, the professor will let you know if you need a textbook. It is highly likely that your professor will say, you don't need that textbook at all. I have an online PDF for free. I will send it to you. Or you can get the first edition. You don't need the 7th edition, which is $800. So you can really save yourself some money if you just be patient and wait to see what they say about the books you need. There are 2 other things I will say about textbooks. 1, rent your textbook. You can rent your textbook for a semester or for a full year on Amazon, and I'm sure there are other places you can also rent it. 2, buy your textbook used. Unless you need a specific code that is activating some special website username, you do not need to buy your textbook new. And at the end of the semester, when you are done with the course, sell that textbook. You can either sell it back to the people who sold it to you in the first place, or you can sell it to other students via, you know, the class of 2025 student group page or whatever. Tip number 5. Shop around for classes. Use your syllabus week wisely. There is a reason that the syllabus week exists. It is because some people are not exactly sure whether they want to take X class or Y class. When I first got to college, I did not want to switch out of any of the classes I was taking. I just wanted to choose a class and then be in that class. But the truth is that some of the classes you choose before you've ever gone to them, The day you roll up, you're going to realize that you actually hate the class you chose. What you need to know is that you should be open to shopping around the classes. Add more classes to your schedule than you would probably need. Add the ones that you think are interesting. Add the ones that you definitely need but maybe don't need to do this semester. And then shop around. Meet the professors. Figure out who's in your class. Figure out if the time works for your schedule. That is what syllabus week is for. It's giving you the opportunity to try on classes before you purchase them. Tip number 6. Don't bother purchasing t-shirts for your university. When you get there the first week, at least at Rutgers, I don't know about smaller schools, they are throwing t-shirts at you. All they want is for you to walk around as their own personal advertisements. So do not purchase any t-shirts. My boyfriend said this today, and it's definitely true. Do not purchase t-shirts, purchase crew necks, purchase sweatshirts, purchase hats. Those things are not usually given out for free. If you want a t-shirt though, there is absolutely no reason that you need to go to your Barnes & Noble bookstore and purchase a Rutgers t-shirt, or any other university for that matter. And don't buy any magnets or stickers either. Those will also be given to you for free. Scheduling classes. So here's my suggestion for scheduling classes. Now, if you go to Rutgers, or if you are at Rutgers as a freshman, you will know that scheduling classes is hellish because we have 3 different websites that you have to use in order to schedule your classes. You need WebReg, where you register for your classes. You need Course Schedule Planner, where you can map out the classes that you're taking that semester and see if they fit your schedule. And you have Degree Navigator, which tells you the actual classes that you need in order to graduate with your degree. So this is an outrageous amount. I'm sure other universities have better systems of choosing classes. Rutgers is sometimes just a mess. So in order to schedule classes, figure out whatever course schedule planner you have at your university and use it to your advantage. Like I said, you can shop around, but the biggest thing about class schedules, I would say, is A, if you can, give yourself Fridays off. That might not be possible as a freshman, but the minute you can give yourself Fridays off, do it. The other thing I will say is figure out what schedule works best for you. Are you a night owl? Are you a morning person? Like, if you can't concentrate after 2 p.m., then you need to make sure that you schedule your classes in the morning. So figure out what time is best for you, your learning style, and then you need to recognize that and try and put those classes within that time frame. Definitely plan out where your classes are going to be taking place, in what building, and then stack them together. So if your science class and your math class are in buildings that are directly next to each other, then you probably want to take science from 10 to 11 and math from 11 to 12. Stacking your classes is going to let you have more freedom in your schedule to be able to do things earlier or later in the day, depending on when those classes are. The more compact your schedule is, the more free time you will have. Whether that's free time to study, go to the gym, eat food, sleep, that is up to you. Tip number 8, studying and how much you should study. So there is no exact number because it's obviously going to be different based on your major and the classes that you're taking and how many classes you're taking. But I will say this, my first semester, I struggled through some of the tests I was taking, especially in like my journalism and media studies 101 class. For some reason, I really struggled through that class, and it was honestly just because I hadn't adjusted to how I was supposed to be studying in college versus how I had been studying in high school. You cannot be studying for exams the night before. I just don't think it's feasible. I would say 75% of the time, you probably need to start studying for the class at least 3 days in advance. Start going over the material, highlighting those chapters, especially the early on classes that you're taking. Those are going to be less specific. They're going to be broader topics. They're going to cover a lot of stuff, and they're going to expect you to know a lot of the stuff in the textbook. So what I would say is make sure you're reading the textbook if they're asking you to. Make sure you're caught up on the outside readings. Even if they're not discussing these things in class, they might end up on your test, and then you're really going to feel screwed, especially if you didn't talk about them in class. Read through the syllabus, like it will tell you what you need to know. But I had a professor who was not ever checking that we read the textbook, was not ever asking us for notes, was not ever talking about it during class. But when the test rolled around, there were a ton of questions on the textbook sections, and I had not read any of them. So just be aware. Number 9, use your dining hall wisely. So this is going to be different dependent upon where you go to school and who you are. But if you go to Rutgers and you have a meal plan, then how you use the meal plan is you swipe in, you go into the dining hall, fill up your plate, you can stay there for as long as you want to, you can eat as much as you want to on that swipe, but once you leave, you have to swipe back to get back in. If you are going to the type of university where you are swiping into the dining hall, bring Tupperware with you. Bring plastic bags with you. I know people who brought water bottles and would fill it with their favorite kind of juice. I know people who would bring milk cartons. This is my cat. I know people who would bring milk cartons and like refill them up. I know people who would take apples and oranges for later in the day. I know people who would grab cereal before leaving so that they could have it the next morning because they didn't have time to go to breakfast. You have every right to go in there and take food out as you go. If you are hungry and you know you're going to eat that food later and you know you're going to use it, or you're bringing cookies home to your roommate, which my roommate and I did all the time, it's okay to grab some extra stuff and bring it with you. Like, use your dining hall wisely. Number 10, roommate issues. So this is kind of a hard one because people are going to have different roommate issues depending on, you know, their roommate and their own personal opinions and preferences. But I would say the only thing that you can really do with a roommate is show them respect, even if you don't like them. So I understand that if you don't get along with your roommate, you might think that they're the worst person in the world and, you know, you fight all the time and all this stuff. I would say the best thing to do would be to limit your time in your room, limit your time with that person, and be as respectful as possible in every way that you can. You might think that's counterintuitive because you might think that your roommate is the jerk who's not being respectful, and I totally understand that, but things are not going to get better if you start acting like a dick. You understand what I'm saying? Like, things are not going to get better if you start leaving your room really messy and inviting your friends over without asking and, you know, turning the lights on at 11 p.m. when you walk in and they're asleep. Like, that's not going to make the situation better. It's just going to make it worse. So the best thing to possibly do is when you get to school, when you meet your roommate, lay down the rules. It's a two-way street. Ask them what they're expecting of you and you tell them what you're expecting of them and, like, have an open discussion. Like, that's how it needs to be. Now, obviously, there are going to be times when people do outrageous, ridiculous stuff, and it's like so beyond disrespectful or rude or confusing. And I understand because I've heard the craziest of roommate stories from many different people. Definitely just do your best to respect each other because it starts to get out of hand when everyone is disrespecting each other and everyone is mad and everyone's tensions are high. You need to be open, you need to be relatively blunt, and you need to tell people the truth. If something is bothering you, don't, you know, stuff it down and go out and tell your friends how much your roommate sucks. You need to say to your roommate, hey, this really bothers me. Can we make something work between us? You know? So compromise is key. That's all I can say. So that's pretty much all the advice I have for you in this video. If anyone else has any extra advice that they want to put down below, drop it in the comments. If anyone has any questions, you're a freshman and you are wondering, you're curious, you need help, drop that in the comments. I will reply to any that I see. And thank you so much for joining me in today's video. It was really fun. I loved my years at Rutgers. I loved my years in college. You know, every university has their pros and cons, but I will say that it's an amazing experience that brought me a lot of joy. And I'm really happy that I got to experience it. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all those YouTube-y things, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye!